A lot of firms on Wall Street gambled with other people's money. They lost billions of dollars. Then they got bailed out, and the people who did the foolish, dishonest deals, the people who lost the money, got bonuses at the end of the year. And I'm listening to Rush Limbaugh. He's defending the bonuses. These aren't real bonuses. These are more like commissions. These are more like tips for a waitress. Tips for a waitress? Let me ask you a question. If you order a steak dinner from a waitress and she loses it, are we supposed to tip her? Have you seen my food? I don't know where it went. No problem. Here's an extra $10.
Unregular radio, uncensored.
Back live, two hotheads where activism happens. The phone number is 617-606-4122. That was Jimmy Tingle. Just left the studio. That was so amazing. We got to thank Carmelita for helping, giving us a hookup to get that.
Thank you so much, Carm. That was a big hookup too. That he's a legend.
We were talking about Carmelita a lot in the studio too with Jimmy and about the old times and the music and that was just such a great moment.
Yeah, he's a fan of the Liars.
yeah.
Talking about all the old Boston clubs and stuff.
And the musicians and and to have him on today, he's the perfect comedian for our show. He is our, what are we calling him? The House Two Hotheads comedian. What is he?
I don't know.
The mayor?
Too hothead approved.
Yeah, he's just unbelievable.
He's the third hothead.
We're in his cabinet.
He's a hothead on comedy.
We're gonna have to get him elected to Congress now.
Yeah, I know. We're working on it. I think he was really. We might have been considering it too.
I know.
All you need is for him to sign something. You do all the footwork.
Yeah,
we can do that.
Just get a piece
that's
of paper
fine.
and set it in front of him and say, "Now this is all you actually have to do is sign that, and then we'll finish."
This is Gregg. I want to make sure I say your last name right. Gregg
Housh.
Yeah. Gregg Housh is here. And Lauren, how do you say your last name?
Pespisa.
Pespisa.
I could have done that.
Yeah, Heather. Oh, Heather, you went to high school with Lauren.
Yeah, I've known Lauren for a wicked long time. We were cheerleaders together.
We were opposite bases, actually.
Yes, we were.
We were throwing girls up in the air.
Yeah,
wow.
and here, this is where we end up.
Would you ever drop them?
No, we were good.
No, we were mad good. We were very good.
So you guys are
tough women.
Tough women? Mm-hmm. You never dropped one.
No.
All right.
Even when they deserved it.
Good. That's why we.
That was short-lived, but it was a fun year. It was a fun year.
But we have you on in the studio to talk about Free Barrett Brown and some of the other activities you've been involved in, activism. I'm trying to think like the first question to even get into this, but
there's a lot there.
There is a lot here. Do you kind of want to? I know both Lauren and Gregg. Talking to you both know a lot about this. Can you give us a quick synopsis of what's really happened on this and why it's so important to be covering and talking about Free Barrett Brown?
Well, in the case of Barrett, he ultimately is an embedded journalist with Anonymous, is how I would describe him. Mm-hmm. And by covering the stuff he did and going so deeply into it and running the Echelon 2 wiki, looking into the, intelligence contractors and sort of the growing surveillance state that's been increasingly more of a problem in this country, and actually naming names and finding out what really happened through, he was not a hacker himself, but other people's hacks. Once that information was out there, he would look into it. And so because of his, pointing the finger at this stuff and saying, hey, this is what's happening, it didn't really make the government very happy. And they would most likely do anything they could, and they did do whatever they could to try to stop this from happening. His group that he ran, called Project PM, was very good at, really researching this stuff and putting together a lot of information. So they ended up, he was definitely watched. He was raided in March. They took his computers, and he was harassed. He was, sort of targeted, and eventually they got him, and he's in prison.
And
for a link. I mean, it's basically like criminalizing journalism.
Yeah, basically. A lot of people posted and reposted that link.
Yeah, it was like all over Twitter and
a lot of news articles, a lot of journalists.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's one of 12 new charges that were brought against him just in the last few weeks.
Let's go through some of the charges, because, I've looked at the charges, and they're absolutely fucking absurd.
Yeah.
The federal government always does this. We all know this. They overcharge people. And I don't think that there's any charge from what I've seen, the evidence I've looked at, I don't see any evidence of him doing any of these things that they're accusing of. So let's go through some of them. What are some of the charges, Greg?
Well, I mean, the first one that they used to actually raid him this second time, which put him in jail, was the idea that he had allegedly threatened a federal officer.
And that video is up online still at YouTube.
That video, and it was kind of a series of videos that he did over a couple weeks there. And
I watched him. I don't find him threatening, especially with his demeanor, the way he talks, the way he speaks.
He's laughing the whole time.
Yeah. One thing
he's
that
not a
bothers
violent
me.
person. He's got no history of it. I didn't take it that, Greg is going to show up with a gun and shoot an FBI. No,
Either is
I didn't
Barrett.
take it.
Neither is Barrett.
Right. Greg, I'm sorry, Barrett. I get names. I'm bad with names. That's why I'm asking you to see your last names. It's like a running theme on the show. But Barrett, it didn't feel like that at all. It felt
Barrett
like
was claiming
he was
castle law is what he was claiming. He said, if you enter my property illegally, when I think I am actually under threat of my life, there are people out there who want me dead, and my personal information is being put on the internet, I'm going to defend my house.
Yeah.
I won't have time to know if you're FBI or not, so be aware. I mean, that's kind of what he was saying.
It's a conditional threat.
I think you're allowed to say that.
And I think also, like, a lot of it was, like, I look at it the way I look at it. Like, the way I have done my activism, a lot of it in marijuana reform. And, like, there's this guy right now, State Senator Keenan. I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to get this guy. And when I say get this guy, I don't mean beat him up. I mean media.
Take him to task.
I'm going to get the press. I've already talked. I've got contacts in this city, the Phoenix, the Dig. They're covering this stuff. We are going to go after him. We're going to do some type of protest, a rally, something against him. Putting out the videos. I mean, when you go to type his name in YouTube, my videos are going to come up first. They already do. That's what I'm talking about. And that's the way I feel like that we're speaking about this FBI agent. Like, I will expose what you're doing. I will take you down. You may lose your job over your misconduct, over your illegal actions, over the wrongful things you're doing to me, trying to kill me, trying to ruin my life for journalism, for activism. And it's like, how can you say that he threatened someone? I don't see it. I don't
see it either. But they were looking for anything they could, and that gave them enough to get a judge to issue the warrant. And that's all they needed. And
they also charged him with fraud.
They've charged him with fraud. They've charged him with, I think the count is at, 18 now total with the 12 new ones? I mean, it's somewhere up there. And it's horrible because none of them would stick individually. But if they throw all of them out, they're probably going to end up with a plea deal, which is why they pile so many on.
Or try to make you be a rat.
Yeah, of course.
People out.
Yeah.
He won't.
What they did with Sabu and, a lot of the others.
And he won't. And that's the worst thing. It's like we got the best... Like, I look at him, I watch his videos, I was like, wow, look at the stuff he is uncovering. This is not
he was pissed off a lot of powerful
undocumented
people.
Conspiracy theory. This is real facts. He's giving you real information. Trapwire. I mean, that stuff is just...
And he's backing it up. He's not just telling you this is what we believe is happening. He's saying, here's the email from this guy to that guy.
Exactly.
The actual
naming
emails,
names, showing you the first...
We have it in their words.
We call them, in history, primary sources.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
He's giving you primary sources. I mean...
Many of them. Thousands.
Yeah. He's a historian.
And well-researched.
He is, actually.
He's a reporter, researcher. I mean... This is ridiculous. Anyone, if you're with the ACLU or any of these groups, I know he's got some, hopefully, a little pro bono help, but he needs money. He needs legal assistance.
He needs pro bono help badly. He doesn't really have it right now. He's got his public defender, who's actually seems to be pretty good. I'm not going to talk trash on public defenders. I think, especially at the federal level, a lot of them are really skilled.
Good.
But you need, the difference between that public defender and a pro bono firm is the amount of resources they have available, the amount of people they can put on a case, the amount of specialized people they can put on a case.
Yeah, a public defender generally will have 500 people he has to represent for free, for a fee
and
from
maybe
the state.
he has an assistant if he's lucky, whereas if you get the pro bono support, you're going to get a team.
Exactly. And he needs that. So he needs money too. Like if you have money out there and you want to support civil liberties and this is something that we need to get the word out, whether you're a libertarian with the Ron Paul type or an occupier, as you said, bringing people together. This is an issue that everybody should be supporting. Free Barrett Brown.
The website's freebarrettbrown.org if you'd like to donate.
And do not go to the .com.
Yeah, not the .com, .org.
What's that about? Is it a different website?
The .com is owned by some Anons in New York who thought
trolls.
it would be funny to troll, and so...
Why? Let's get into that.
Why would they do that? Yeah, I mean,
because they consider themselves kind of the old school Anons. They're from, let's say, 06, 07, before anyone did anything nice or good or right, and so they just like trolling.
They're anti-white knight.
Yes,
very very anti-moral fag.
Yes.
Are there others too in the anonymous movement that don't support Barrett Brown right now?
Absolutely,
yeah, a lot.
There's a lot, but I mean, I get the same thing too.
Why?
You know? What's interesting is, I have an interesting argument for that. When I got outed, this happened. I got outed by Scientology as we were going against them because they knew I had something to do with the Message to Scientology video and organizing the initial protests.
Yeah, your name was on the. I know the Boston City
the permit, and they went and got that pulled, and they did all this stuff to track me down and get pictures of my house and all that. But yeah, it was fine. And when it went all online, a lot of people started saying things. Well, you need to go away now, and I thought that was really funny that if the enemy found you, you were suddenly no longer allowed to have any fun. Like that gives the enemy way too powerful of a weapon. All they've got to do is identify you, and then you can't help anymore. I wasn't going to back down from that. I ended up going to court for 7 months against them. And you know what? I got banned from visiting their Boston location, but by address. So I went and visited their New York location, their LA location, their Connecticut location, their DC location, because it was just by address. But the thing that happened was a lot of Anons now saw that I had a name. And then they saw, the press came.
Yeah,
the press were like, oh, we've got someone we can talk to who might actually have a clue here. Great. We can verify this.
Credibility. Because there's nobody else. There's no one else to speak to.
The problem with a lot of press, like the New York Times and whatnot, is they're under heavy pressure not to use anonymous sources, whether it's anonymous, with a capital A, or just some random anonymous, source. So they want to put a name to any source they do in any article. And a lot of editors out there from big magazines to newspapers won't allow them to do an article with anonymous sources. So to get it right, they really need a name. So I kind of gave up that month. I was like, you know what? F it. I don't care. Yeah, sure. Print my name. Let's do this. And I started answering their questions and clarifying everything they were getting wrong. And I got, a lot of pushback from that. But after years of taking it, everyone seemed to kind of give up on that. And, there was a split half and half. With Barrett, there was something interesting, whereas he wasn't outed by an enemy. He just kind of already had a name and then started acting with the Anons, in getting himself embedded in following everything and doing the research. And some people thought that he was kind of being what they refer to as a name fag. He was doing this under his own name. He never even tried to be anonymous. But that's not the point with Barrett. He's not. He says he's not. He's
a journalist.
He's doing it his own way.
So that attitude has always confused me, that they don't like him because everyone knows his name.
Yeah.
Well, of course, he's a journalist.
Yep.
You're going to know his name.
Yeah.
And sometimes people have to get out of the look at reality. Like, there's kind of like you've got a basket of fruit.
Who's the real
Deal
enemy?
with the fruit that you have and work from there. Like these.
I like this metaphor.
I don't know. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like you whatever you have, you take advantage of.
At the same
you
time,
can't just stick in this box, because that's what the other side is.
I'll explain his value. Here's where his value first really showed. It was amazing. It was the night that the HB Gary hack happened. There's a bunch of people in this channel when the hack goes down, but when the hack actually happens, there's 6 of us in there. He's the 7th guy to enter the channel. And he's asking questions. What's going on? I'm going to write something about this. I'm going to get... And then it explodes. The press starts covering what happened, and 800 people are in this HB Gary channel within minutes. Well, only a couple people had access to the data that had leaked. And again, this was just, going after one person for what he had done, Aaron Barr, who I believe deserved what happened to him. And still deserves a lot more.
Yeah.
And this is the guy at HB Gary?
Yeah, this is the guy at HB Gary. But what had happened was Barrett noticed very quickly that everyone was just kind of glossing over the fact that they had this treasure trove of data. Was there anything in there? There might be something interesting in there. And he built a team of people out of anyone that looked interested in the channel, who were going through the emails that were up on that website that they had built the search engine, to go through all of this and gather data. And they would have never found the stuff about Team Themis, the group of security companies that were going after WikiLeaks, that were going after Glenn Greenwald, that were working with Bank of America and the Chamber of Commerce, and all those other interesting things that led to the discoveries of Trapwire and all these other big events. All started with that little group of people going through those emails and realizing this wasn't just an attack on Aaron Barr. This was something bigger. Something else had come out of it. And Barrett was one of the driving forces behind doing all that research and finding the heavy material and correlating it, really saying, oh, look, this email to this guy means he must be involved, and then figuring out that that was the owner of the company, and he says he's involved, and all of that information came from that act. And I'll tell you, that right there was the most valuable thing he brought, was his ability to do something that I can't do, sit there and stare at 70,000 emails and pull something out of it. I go insane looking at 5 of them.
Yeah. It's somebody's got to do that kind of work. I mean, it's always with these activist movements. Somebody's got to step up.
The research work is the most boring, horrible stuff to do.
Yeah,
it really is.
And
true.
he got people together who were willing to do that, and that was key. And for anyone who doesn't like, some of the stuff he's done, you got to think to yourself, did you want to sit there and go through 70,000 emails to figure all this out?
Yeah.
I didn't.
And also, and then after the fact, like this is what I see with a lot of people too. Sometimes they'll do all the research, but then they don't get it out there.
Right.
He would wave he's been waving the flag and saying, this is what's important. Look at this Trapwire. Look at what we've discovered.
And that's
Let's
why
talk
this
to this
is,
journalist.
that's why it's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's why he's the
made
threat.
enemies.
Let's
That's
talk
why he's in
about
jail.
some of the through this episode that you're talking about. What were some of the media that you got from it? Because I know it was covered nationally. It was
Lots of media came from all of this type of stuff. I mean, Barrett was on MSNBC. He was on
RT.
Multiple TV stations. He was on RT multiple times. I was on, all those. We were both in New York Times and, magazines and just all over the place. I think during that specific episode, I did just over 3,000 interviews in 4 months.
Wow.
And, it wasn't out of any need for me to do interviews. I mean, it's actually really hard to do that. It's draining.
Yeah,
I'd rather be playing football.
energy.
It's less draining.
Yeah.
But
it is work.
time and effort, just the mental effort there. But the thing is they kept printing things wrong.
Yep.
And if you do these types of things to get a point across,
Yep.
and they're not getting it, someone has to clarify it.
Absolutely.
And people
You
like
have to
me and
speak
people
for
like
your
Barrett,
side.
we have a name that they're willing to listen to.
Yep.
For some reason or another, they actually pay attention, so we can get them to correct what they've made, what they've
Absolutely.
mistakes.
And then they let you speak. If like it's the same thing with I'm going to go back to my activism because that's what I've always been a part of. But recently in the medical marijuana, a lot of times we get so frustrated because the media only contacts one side. And it's their side, and it's full of incorrect information. But it always allows us the opportunity to respond, to get the word out.
Yep.
And if you don't respond, that's when the real danger happens. And you need somebody. If you're in the anonymous movement, as Greg, you've been saying, you need somebody with a name to put a name behind it so you can respond to this mainstream media bullshit. You can't just rely on YouTube and the Anon channels and all the internet.
That's
to
good to get
address
the
everything.
message out, but when they want some corrections or they want to find someone, a lot of them just won't deal with anonymous sources. They want names.
And it's not just, and it's not just for the sake of journalism, these corrections and stuff, for the sake of getting a good story. I mean, people's lives are on
I don't
the
care
line.
about the journalists or the papers or the magazines or the TV shows. I don't care about them at all. I want the people who are reading them to get the right story.
Exactly.
Get the word,
Exactly.
Get that truth.
And tell us a little bit more about your relationship to Barrett and how you became friends and colleagues or whatever. How'd that happen?
I have this weird relationship with Barrett in that I don't know that I can take credit or blame, however you want to put it, for him being as deep with all of this as he is, because he was doing some trolling and whatnot back in 05, 06, 07, random little things, but he wasn't part of the deeper anonymous movement and stuff that was going on and the bigger actions. And he wrote an article that went out on the Huffington Post, and this article talked about how nation states would start falling, and it might be Anonymous who was behind it, or it might be similar tactics that were behind it. And this was, a year and a half before the Arab Spring happened, maybe almost 2 years. And, Anonymous played big roles in that stuff and helping them stay online, just like Telecomics and the other groups did. And I responded to it thinking this was an interesting article, just to say hi to him. I emailed the guy behind the article. Never talked to him before. And I said, I think, what you've said is a little too much credit. I don't think we'll be overthrowing any nations soon. But I'd love to talk a little more about your ideas on some of this. You seem to have some pretty good ideas. And he responded asking where we all were. And so I told him how to get to the IRC servers. And, that's kind of how we met. It was maybe a day later that I realized that he was now, I guess what you could say, embedded. and sitting there doing a lot of heavy lifting for figuring out what was going on with all the hacks. And we got to know each other really well through all of that and talk a lot about the events that were going on and the media that was going on. And one of the better things for me was during that really hard time when I got, that many phone calls. I mean, one of those days, the day after the HP Gary hack happened, I had over 300 people phone call or email me trying to get interviews. I had Barrett off to the side, and I could say, hey, Barrett, here, do this one, do that one, and I was passing stuff to him. And there were a few others for the sources that were willing to talk to anonymous people that I was handing it all off to. But, he took a heavy load off right there. And that's how me and him kind of made friends. And this idea came up, actually, funny enough, from the New York Times that I should really put some kind of a book out that kind of consolidates a lot of the information about where the movement came from, what some of our roles were in it. And it was just a writer at the New York Times who told me, my literary agent says you should write a book, and so you should write a book. And I said, I don't know how to write a book. I can't write. He said, that doesn't matter. You don't have to write. So I end up with a book deal when all of my friends, consider themselves writers. Even my wife, she writes really good.
Yeah.
I can't write at all, and I'm the one who ends up with a book deal. So, so I thought to myself, what writer do I know that I wouldn't have to explain everything to? Well, there's Barrett. He can write this. He knows half of, what's going on anyways. I can fill in some of the gaps for him for the earlier years, like going back to, say, January 2008 or so on when the initial stuff against Scientology started. And, the first time we really got to the streets and whatnot. And I won't have to explain everything from the acronyms to the little inside sayings. It'll go so much faster.
Yeah.
And I actually liked his writing style. And we got pretty far along through it. He came on as my co-writer. And so I had to go down and visit him, stay at his place with him. Actually, we stayed at his mom's place.
That's in Austin, Texas?
In Dallas.
Dallas, okay.
Where I'm originally from. So I got to go stay down there with him and visit my family. So it was great. And after a very short period, we had a lot of chapters together, a lot of ideas for chapters together. And Amazon were starting to come back with their edits, what we were going to do and all that. And it just turned out that there were going to be a lot of edits. And then some stuff with Barrett started to come up where he started going down this path where it looked like he might be getting arrested relatively soon, and we ended up bringing in another writer to clean up, everything he was sending in and do the edits for him. So he was still going to send in more material, but then this other writer was going to do it. Now with Barrett gone, this other writer has taken over and is now the lead writer, of course. That's kind of how I got to know Barrett. I got to know his family. I mean, I love his mom. She's great.
Yeah.
We talk, basically once a week now since, he's been in jail.
How is she handling it?
She's handling it okay. I mean,
she's
got
lady.
stuff going against her too. They're trying to talk to her about maybe obstruction of justice and whatnot because he ran to her house.
This is what they do. They threaten the family so that you plea. I mean,
exactly.
They did that to Mark Emery.
Yep.
This other activist that we work with, he's doing 5 years at federal jail from Canada, and they went after his cohorts, like the people that work for him. And he ended up pleading 5 years. This is the same tactic they use over and over.
Yeah. And this is what really got to Barrett because he loves his mother.
Yeah. And that's what he set him off in the videos.
Yeah.
And they know
that's what drove him,
Lauren, how did you meet Barrett? What's your relationship with Barrett?
Me and Barrett, I guess, sort of became friends first over the internet. I was, I've been in all different IRCs, involved in a lot of. I'm a engineer. Well, I guess web developer by trade, and so I'm on all these IRC channels and interested in all this anonymous stuff. And I'd been hanging out in Project PM and working with them and doing stuff with them for a while, and we sort of realized that we had a lot of we connected as people. Like, we became close friends, and he came to Boston to visit around this time last year, maybe like November-ish, and we hung out a lot then, and talked like all night one night, and we got really close. Like, I have a very personal relationship with him. A lot of people were joking about how we should be together. We're but it wasn't like that. It was just we were just friends, but we were really close. And I saw him, so we kept in touch online. We talked a lot. And I, not just about the activism stuff, but about personal stuff. And I ended up, last time I saw him in person was at the Hope Hackers on Planet Earth conference this summer, where he was actually doing another conference in the same city, but it was like do you know what conference he was at then?
I don't remember.
It was some kind of like business and security conference. He's not really a hacker at all, but he was speaking on some issue involved with that. And I was doing Bradley Manning support network, raising money for Bradley Manning at Hope, with some other friends, and we all hung out then, and he seemed happy, and it was really nice to see him then. And if I'd have known that in a couple months, he'd be in jail, I feel like I would have hugged him a little longer when I said goodbye. Like it's pretty hard for me. I think about him every day. Thinking about him in jail. He was withdrawing from Suboxone in solitary. Yeah. And then I talked to him on the phone, and he sounds fine. Yeah. He sounds sane. He sounds happy.
They detoxed him off of everything.
Yeah.
The smoking, the Suboxone, the Xanax, the drinking. I mean, he's off of it all. And I'll tell you,
he
to talk to him on the phone right now, he sounds so good.
So you can
he sounds
talk
good.
To him, huh?
Yeah. He can call out, and you get the 15 minutes, and you don't know when it's going to end, so you just kind of get cut off.
Is there any way you think we could get him on the show?
We can't reach him, but he can reach us.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be awesome. So I would love to speak to him, but can people write him?
Yes.
Yes, people can write him, and you can get that information from the website, right?
Yep, it's on freebarrettbrown.org.
Awesome. We want to talk much more about this. I think
Definitely.
Barrett is it should not be in jail. It's just I just want to say that's
definitely not facing 45
bullshit.
years. It's
Bullshit.
unbelievable.
And the biggest charge, the one that they're trying to get him with the worst, is from the Stratfor hack.
Oh yeah.
They after the hack, there was a link that led to a lot of the hacked materials, and it was posted by many people in IRC, him being one of them. And they're saying that because he copied this hyperlink from one IRC server to another, that he somehow possessed it, and he led to the spread of this hacked material and was such involved in the conspiracy. It's very weird language that basically says if you copied this link and gave it to someone, you were now in trouble as bad as the people who did the hack. And that is not a precedent we want to see set.
Absolutely not.
How many journalists and reporters put that link in their article? I believe the count is over 800.
Right.
So that's a
and why aren't they getting indicted on federal charges?
I'll tell you
why is this selective punishment going on?
Because if you're with ABC, it's okay.
Right.
If you're
they
with
have a team
NBC,
of lawyers.
You're okay.
They have a team of lawyers the government doesn't want to fight.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's sanctioned. Like
and Barrett Brown does
they're
not.
using these laws to go after the people that they don't
The thing we
like.
have
The
to-
ones that,
yeah.
that are making the most changes that they don't like.
Yeah.
And also
The
ones
loudest voices.
that don't have the money to defend themselves in court in the way that maybe other organizations do, and so they're attacking the most vulnerable people who are making the most difference.
Absolutely.
And the thing about the Stratfor hack is that it was an FBI operation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when it comes down to it...
They sanction it. They
Yes.
set it up, just like they set up. I mean, tell us about how they set this up.
I mean, this was run by Sabu, and he was a Fed.
He was an FBI informant
At
the
that
time.
point in time. So, therefore, this is entrapment. I mean, this is plain and simple entrapment. Of course, nobody argues that in court, but this is
Arguing entrapment in court
And
is
you
an easy way
wonder,
to lose.
Yeah.
Greg, you mentioned when we talked about this earlier too about the contradiction, like because you when you really deeply think about this, here's a private corporation called Stratfor.
Yep.
The FBI is alleging that what Barrett was involved in by posting links from their operation that they created, that it hurt this company Stratfor, which is an evil company. And
Absolutely.
So you brought up what are the two scenarios?
Here's the thing, so Sabu gets busted. He starts working for them instantly. Like by their wording in the press release they put out, it was that night he said, absolutely whatever you want from me, how can I work for you? And actually started self-identifying as an agent. Like, it's horrible how far he switched. And the Stratfor hack happened sometime after that. I mean, we're talking, 3 months? This was a hack that was done, led by Sabu. And there was actually a point to the hack, but the FBI allowed him to do this. Who knows if they actually instructed him to, but that's the big open question, because he would have had to have gotten special permissions. There are judges involved in that. So one of two things happened here. Either Stratfor knew this hack was going to happen and worked with the government to make this happen, so they were part of it, which then means any implied damages or anything else, well, those don't exist because the company was okay with it. And they will be writing about that. So there are no damages if the company actually sanctioned the attack. The next thing is the government itself, if there wasn't sanction, if Stratfor didn't say, yes, you can do this, then our government, specifically the FBI, just sanctioned a hacker to go and attempt to destroy a U.S. company without warning that company. What gives them the right to do that to a privately held U.S. company? And then on this hack that they sanctioned, that they were a heavy part of,
that they created,
they're
wouldn't
now
have happened
claiming,
without the FBI,
and that wouldn't have happened without them. that they're now claiming that Barrett is implicated in that hack because of spreading that link. And I mean, it's just asinine.
They should have paid him.
And here's I mean, you just have to question yourself. Either side of it you're on. I mean, it doesn't matter whether they sanctioned it with support of Stratfor or without. Either way, they were behind this hack. And the reason they did this hack is interesting. There's another case with Jeremy Hammond, who's looking at basically the rest of his life if everything goes horrible. And so they were trying to entrap Jullian Assange of WikiLeaks. What they wanted to do was get Jullian to buy this stolen material from Stratfor to put on WikiLeaks. So Sabu was trying to sell it to WikiLeaks. And when other hackers realized that Sabu had asked for money, but they still had access to the little cache of where the files were, they just took the files and handed them over to WikiLeaks and said, "What are you doing?" The FBI got pissed because these hackers had just broken up their attempted entrapment.
Good deal.
And that's what really pissed them off about Jeremy and these others.
I love it. The community said, "Fuck you" to the FBI's bullshit.
They didn't even know that the FBI were there at that point.
But
they were just pissed off at Sabu for trying to ask for money for this hack.
Right.
Yep.
And so now, another hacker, Jeremy, is going to prison for, and he's getting really overly punished for allegedly breaking up an entrapment scheme that he didn't even know was going on.
So he was the one who sent it for free, and now, oh wow.
Well, allegedly.
Yeah,
we don't have any proof of that.
That's true.
I don't know, but that's one of the things they're alleging he did.
So allegedly he was a hero.
Allegedly he was a hero.
And allegedly that he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life.
And whether or not he did that,
this is what it comes down to. All of this.
Whether or not he did that, he's a hero. I mean, for all the other work he's done.
Yeah.
But anyway, you look at it, the FBI set this up in order to get people like Barrett, in order to get people like Jeremy, but the main target was Jullian Assange on this one.
Wow. This is crazy. Absolutely insane. Military-industrial
and terrifying
complex.
to any journalist.
Yeah.
You hear this military-industrial complex from so many people who are like on the fringe conspiracy theorists.
The first thing that comes to mind is nut jobs.
Yeah,
but it's not. This is actually
This is the real deal. FBI, CIA, these corporations. He's named a lot of them too. Barrett's gone all Cubic, Stratfor. I forget.
We have a whole website on Echelon 2.
Echelon2.org.
And that's
it's a
the
wiki that
number
has them all.
2. Echelon.
Yes.
The number 2.
Because they have Echelon 1.
Yes.
We have Echelon 2.
Yes.
You can look all this information up and show. If we're wrong, tell us, because I don't think we are.
No,
by all means.
no, you got it.
We got the experts here today. So, and don't get mad because I said that. Come on. This is the problem, I think, a lot in the world. People get mad at people for being who they are. Like, and the world isn't always in your little box.
I've taken years of that. I don't really care.
I know.
It just kind of falls off.
Yeah, I know.
I don't even know where the box is anymore.
All right, we're at 617-606. Now I'm forgetting the number.
4122.
Wow.
606.
Can you believe that? I've been here for 2 years. I never forgot the number.
It's right there.
This is a big show. Yeah.
It's true.
It's
we
a lot
got
to take in.
lots on our mind. So, yeah, 606-4122.
Call us.
in.
617-606-4122.
Greg's got it.
Thank you, sir. You're showing us up now. We're
On
gonna take
regular radio,
we're gonna take a quick break,
We'll
and
come back.
we'll be back with our friends Lauren and Greg, and keep talking about this because it's definitely important stuff. So if you'd like to talk to them, call in, and
Please
we'll
call
be
in.
back. Yeah,
I know
please
there's
do.
some people who are even have their own shows and they're interested in the subject and they just are almost
to the fanboys.
afraid to call in on this show from talking to them privately. Please call in. We want to hear from you about Barrett Brown. If you're listening, call 617-606-4122.
All right, and we'll be back on Unregular Radio.
Unregularradio.com.